We're just going live again to discuss a few topics. Would you like me to start? So topics of sinus pressure, tension headaches, how tension headaches are different from migraines, and how migraines are different from concussions, and how tension headaches are different from migraines and concussions, and sinus pressure and sinus infection and ear tube size, and if there's an aqueduct issue with draining, shouldn't have anything to do with your ear tubes, but sometimes there's a correlation with that. And then adenoids and tonsils. I am not able to see any anatomical picture of my body composition accurately. So the mirror neurons, that is a very serious topic. The kinds of torture, which is why we attempted to contact the United Nations. We are concerned about our biological family members, and so this is why we don't have enough information. It's important to mention that, but the level of violence is almost not can't be quantified at this time. This absolute worst level of violence. So, as far as the physiological experience of what's a busy day versus not such a busy day, and the traumatic effects of people trying to legally hurt, to torture me, and how that affects the perception of the experience. And what's, I wonder, helpful to communicate what's most damaging is that there's no help available. So knowing, I don't know what's more tough about acceptance as far as the perspective of accepting that there's the commitment to hurt. And the communicate, to be able to correspond is not the issue, but the politics, people I wonder understand these political challenges and endeavors. So we've used vocabulary words like campaigning and lobbying as umbrella topics to discuss the societal social etiquette forms of culture. We say tradition because culture is almost stigmatized in a way that shouldn't be. Language is linguistics and culture, the science of genetics, to distinguish and decipher whether one language or multilingual, and how that's different from the ventricles of the brain as far as aptitude capacity and cognition and comprehension capacity versus aptitude capacity. Skeleton and bone grinding on bone, and no cartilage between like a knee or a shoulder joint. Tennis, although I don't know what that, I'm not certain. Tendinitis maybe is the better example. And bone grinding on bone, there's not a weightlessness or feather-like weightlessness. There's no paresthesia, tingling, numbness. And this is why I mentioned the mirror neurons, because I can't see any of my facial features or body composition accurately. We don't say I feel. We don't ever discuss any topic in that way. We stay very objective with this was a series of events, consecutive, random, or not, and measure. So specifics that can be measured, thinking of vital signs, for example. There's no interpretation or inferential reasoning of interpretation with the imagination. And sometimes with maturation and coping and capacity for conversation, that is a wonderful place to be, but with no support support can be absolutely terrifying. So coping and self-awareness and the body scanning component of that, sometimes to be triggered means that a physiological sensation can become instantaneously foreign. Sometimes people object permanence, and we had used the word symbiotic. So these theories of psychology and neurology and the metric to measure what's going on, the imaging, how people learn their identity is to learn they're separate from the wound that they grew inside of, how they communicated with their families. So that's the reality of the situation. And we are very for, as long as safely mounted or applied to a crib, small people having mirrors. So that, but the level of cruelty to the concept of losing control and how that's different from focus and tension. So rigidity and contractures are the most realistic topics to discuss. Rigidity, contractures, and like a chiropractor. Plantar fasciitis, tendonitis, cartilage wearing thin. I think of my brother and the surgeries that he's had, and I'm terrified of how violent he needs those surgeries. So people like cutting it open. This is like very, and he has a very rare type of blood as well. Is devastating, that they were raping, more than raping, mutilated him. How are we supposed to make sense of that? So, the lengths these people will go to, we're not we're not for science. So there's no space for compassion and apathy and sympathy, and the topic of exoneration is not applicable to strangers and to people that choose to remain so ignorant. That is being disciplined to yourself and to others, right? We have how many of our brothers that they're taking care of themselves, trying to make the best choices they can make, no other information, and everybody did that to them. And they're not even I would say, I'll let my husband discuss this, but not that I have to be silent, but I would guess that they're not even at capacity, to be honest. So and I'm the youngest from the sibling group through Caroline, me and my husband, and Harry Lewis and our other brother through her dad, Edward. We're the youngest from the Caroline group. So this is a kind of loss and bereavement that is, I don't want to say astronomical, the enormity and the devastation of how violent this has been unnecessarily. And our brothers have contributed to society and been very extremely functional. Don't display, they don't even see this, they don't even see what their lives had been. I don't know now, but they had not even seen themselves as victims, or and that didn't mean that they were without struggle. So I am beyond disgusted, to be very honest, and I don't even know that, even this is not an ideation, not a homicidal ideation or terroristic threat. The killing spree is not even enough. So this can't ever happen to our family ever again, and I'm not certain how we're making up for lost time for all of our siblings. I don't even know. I don't know where they're at in processing this information. Understanding living through a war is a little bit of a different perspective, but they still shouldn't have been expected to sacrifice so much. And I think mom struggles with that, and I think grandpa struggles with that, but they're not so egocentric, but inevitably they would never change that me and my brothers exist, but and my husband, but this is a level of evil that however this started has to be stopped. So our distinction from the rest of society that's not biologically related to us we can never allow for there to be any breakdown of boundary physically ever. We can't. Gene regulation is very important. We can't ever risk infiltration and occupy ever again. Our one brother is going to have to be examined. We need to know. I wouldn't say. Do you want me to explain? Like, what if they put chips? That's how bad this is, and there's no paranoia, and that's like, and for the women that have had children, for our brothers that had marriages that maybe they aren't viable, like this is really that bad. So we can never ever ever let strangers go to it. I don't know if we only go to 5 degrees of separation or 5 times removed. Hopefully that's far enough where that's the way to say that. I think of the physical space and how that's needed sometimes. So we're very upset. Right now, is that all for now? I'm not certain what to expect, if that's important to mention that. And so existing in the stream of consciousness of existing and what's muscle tautness for tension, how much of that am I supposed to be aware of or not? So the noise pollution, the sound pollution, and then the actual aerated pollution. However many months I've been in that situation, in addition to what corrupt politicians have been trying to accomplish, not just with me, but with the entire United States of America and the world. I don't have fact-based information available to me. So the timeline for the duration of what this experience has been, as far as the severity and rehabilitative process, like reunification or integration, commencing with reunification, but we don't want the extremes of that. We want the step-by-step process. This has really been that bad. So nobody really camps out. We do discuss history and how people basically lived in caves where they built wooden structures. They didn't really have modern ventilation, cooling, and heating systems, but they still were able to shelter in place. They didn't have modern conveniences and luxuries of water. Humanity has kind of evolved to a standard of understanding that to thrive, there has to be a certain kind of level. They may have had hot springs, but there has to be a certain level of predictability to contribute to stability for optimal functioning. So rest and rejuvenation involves having a physical structure to shelter in place where you can have a certain level of infection control, cleaning supplies, water heater, and then a ventilation system for heating and cooling and keeping certain germs and bacteria and air spores out. So I have been forced to camp outside And I don't know that I'm in a stage of the hierarchy because of the goals and what we're staying focused on to really process the toll that this has taken on my body, other than not having a mattress to sleep in. And not the noise and light pollution is a problem, but my husband, the littles, our family are the priority. So I really try to maintain a perspective. But that contributes to me the process of rest and rejuvenation. I would say the continuum of what to know is not for me. I don't know that anymore. And those challenges are potentiated by not being able to see myself. So this isn't just like looking for validation, but kind of, I wouldn't even say being able to give myself a hug doesn't always mean wrapping my arms around myself, wrapping a blanket around my body and pulling tightly. This means being able to see myself. That's what giving myself a hug means. So there's a chemical process associated with that. This is not okay. This is so violent, but the littles, my husband, the littles, and our family are the priority, if that makes sense. So I really try to not focus on other topics other than one step at a time. So I don't know what to anticipate, but the level of violation is like worse than rape, like how barbaric this is. This is worse than misogynistic. This is worse than physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. So we don't want this for us, our families, for our children, our families. We can't ever risk, and we just want to make sure we remain solution oriented, have a healthy understanding of what to exist means, and then understand how we are uniquely different. Allow them to have space to just exist as they are. I'm not certain how to better explain that. Intracranial pressure and ocular pressure, the experience of that. I don't know, modifications to hair length and styling and all of that. What I do know is that fastening my hair with a scrunchie should never cause a headache. Some should never cause a headache. If there's some people that wear their hair shellacked, if that's the best way to say that, their hair might look more tightly pulled back than it actually is. And if they start to get a headache, they know that they maybe need rest or they're not something different. There's a deviation. Maybe not an emergent crisis situation, but maybe I just need to give my hair a rest, that kind of stuff. Or maybe it's an indication that they have a sinus infection or they're just nearing burnout or something like that. They might need, some people go on retreats. So, but that should never cause problems. My footwear should never really cause problems. The next topic would be autonomic dysreflexia. So I don't have, that shouldn't ever happen. But if that's the right way to say that. So the sophisticated chemical agents and the cruelty and the evil and violent motives and agenda are horrible. Depth perception, spatial awareness, retina health, right? How the retina processes light, not color, light. So spatial awareness is more than everything's neurology, right? But this is just people coloring their hair whether instead of a natural hair color shouldn't affect me. Right, so there are some people that genetically have a phenotype where they present a certain way, and that's their genetics. So there's a science to odor, and that's part of that science, like a silent odor, right? So odor is supposed to be able to access your sense of smell, but a silent odor is the segue to linguistics, right? And then the parasympathetic central nervous system. So to the analogy of, I understand that if I want to understand the science of language, this is more than what I can see. The parameters of that are something molecular, something very different, and that's incredible. That's a phenomenon, right? So inferential reasoning, but not. So just stop there with that. So some of our research and my thoughts, in other words, what I've done and where I feel to this concept of faith and exploitation. How people learn that we're not discussing this any further. But when people don't know better is what that can't use that as a standard for evaluation and assessment ever. We focus on knowledge deficit and asking questions. That's the most, we wonder and hypothesize, that's the most important. Indignant is not a good vocabulary word, but these people with intent harm, the people that like raped my dad's and then my brothers knew what they were doing. So there's no atonement or forgiveness. But we don't discuss that way. We discuss this as what's war and what's civilian. So that's never supposed to coexist. There's some people have to learn. Some people acknowledge they live in a war zone, and they find there's a major deviation to tasks that daily living, right? So that's all for now. Just stay focused on one step at a time, and one step at a time. Let people speak for themselves, and let people speak for themselves, and then if they want to have a conversation, we'll have a conversation. But hopefully a husband, is that all for now? And hoping to, if there are any suggestions for ensuring that there's no confusion, that would be extremely helpful. Because we need to evolve from this. But we just want to know how to assist making it realistically possible. Brain bruising. I'm not certain if necessary to further elaborate, but usually people that had brain bruising or concussion, they usually have a family member, a support person, understands what's going on. And there's a timeline specified and usually a physician prescribes dietary and activity and timeline, and lets the person know, lets the individual know what the treatment options are. But distinguishing what's less focus and lethargy is different. If okay to mention, I can't access focus. I'm concerned I can't access focus, and that so because people have tried to tranquilize me, very important to understand the difference. And sometimes for any individual that maybe has that experience, that can be terrifying. So distinguishing that is important. There are no secrets about that. But, and even if I wanted to pick up the pace, I can't access the. But that's the recovery, right? Because when really tranquilized, that's what's terrifying about this. Like, please let me. That's all. This was absolutely necessary to explicitly work this. Blood sugar and blood pressure could create that as well. So understanding the micro macro nutrition sustenance standards. They're